Y'all know Caleb Calhoun, as I go a little country here. He writes for allfortennessee.com. What many of you might not know is that he is a grad of the University of Maryland. They've got a great journalism department there, and writes for USA Today. And, will go to Bird Stadium for games, that sort of thing. So he's very much in the know about the University of Maryland as well as Tennessee, as he writes, and he really is the lead writer at allfortennessee.com. You're listening, by the way, Mark E. Bilson, Tri-City Sports Now. So therefore, when it came out yesterday that DJ Durkin was going to be reinstated as Maryland's head football coach, this after the death of Jordan McNair during the offseason, I was stunned. No, I was shocked, and I wanted to have him on to talk about it. DJ Durkin, the 10-15 head coach of the Terrapins, who is said to have treated, his non-starters almost like Sergeant Hardman in the movie Full Metal Jacket. But Caleb Calhoun, what were your thoughts when you heard, oh yeah, Maryland, we've looked into this, and even though somebody died, we're going to bring back DJ Durkin as a head football coach?
Honestly, I just thought it was dumb. I mean, again, Maryland had the easiest out ever because it's not like they were dealing with Urban Meyer as head coach or Joe Paterno at Penn State. They were dealing with a coach who had won 45% of his games with 10-15 and had no real cachet, and they were 5-3 this year without him. And so this was just the easiest out ever to get rid of him and just kind of start fresh, and they decided to keep him, and I don't understand why they would want to do that. I do get annoyed with I know some people that like to jump on the mob mentality and say, oh, this proves that Maryland is about winning football games over the player safety. I'm like, I don't think so, because they weren't winning football games either.
Yeah.
So this isn't one of those cases like when people compare it to Urban Meyer. I'm like, Ohio State had a on-field results reason to want to keep Meyer. Maryland did not even have that with DJ Durkin. So the only explanation would be that he knows the boosters so well that they were willing to stick with him because they must really love playing golf with him.
Well, okay, let me try to take up, I'll try to play defense attorney here. I can say with Durkin, two of the things when I understood the review that the board was going through was that Jordan McNair should have drank his water. Evidently, there was a gallon jug of water during this rigorous workout that was still left in the locker room. Is there anything there that one could say, well, then it's not necessarily Durkin's fault that the player died on his watch? What is, outside of 10-15, what other finding could you say that with Durkin, not his fault that the player died?
That's what I kind of think this is about to a certain degree. To be fair to DJ Durkin, again, I was saying that from the perspective, for the sake of the terms of the program, they have an out here. But we do have to be fair and say, like, this investigation it wasn't as clear as even the Urban Meyer investigation, where it just blatantly showed that Urban Meyer lied in Ohio State scam investigation. I mean, this is a lot more black and white. I mean, the worst thing you could say, I mean, there's a very legitimate argument to make that DJ Durkin just hired a strength coach who made a criminal mistake, honestly, in my opinion, but at the same time, whether or not the player drank enough water, I kind of say is a little bit irrelevant, mainly because there's no denying that the strength staff did not properly identify a heat stroke. I think that was the biggest problem. But again, do you always put that on the head coach? Doesn't the head coach have... It's a judgment call at that point. Because you're saying that the head coach should know if his strength staff can properly identify a heat stroke, but, maybe they should assume that they can properly identify that.
Yeah, the heat stroke, and there was the delay in giving McNair any medical attention, was there? Wasn't it like a half hour before anybody looked at him while he had heat stroke? That's the damning thing I thought about Durkin from what I heard about it. Do I have that right, Caleb Calhoun?
Well, yeah, but as far as I was aware of reading it, but Durkin wasn't involved at the time, obviously, because this was summer workouts, but it was the strength staff that took 30 minutes
Yeah.
So, I think that, in a crazy scenario, in a horrible situation, this reminds me of the story of the Junction Boys, where the one player had the heat stroke and Van Bryant kicked him when he was passed out on the ground.
Sure.
And, and it's a horrible story. But I don't know. I really don't think that this was, the way a lot of people are making it, that this was indicative of some level of corruption on the Maryland department or no values because they're keeping this coach on. I think there could be you could make a legitimate argument, which you couldn't do for Urban Meyer or even Joe Paterno. You could make a legitimate argument that DJ Durkin maybe should have known a little bit more, but wasn't blatantly negligent, I guess you could say.
The idea would have been with the strength and conditioning staff. I mean, Tennessee fans do this with, Butch Jones all the time. Look, he hired, Rock Gullickson or incompetence to take care of the Tennessee Volunteers, guys that couldn't even identify, allegedly, Brett Kendrick's concussion. So, you look at that, and so many Tennessee fans want to put that on Butch Jones, and rightfully so. Well, these are guys that Durkin hired, or would have at least passed on, checked off on, and being his strength and conditioning coaches, so that they can't identify heat stroke in a half hour and it kills a guy. It doesn't look so good. That's the argument against Durkin, I think. Yeah.
And that is the best argument against him. There's also an argument, though, and this is actually something that does actually work, that would have worked in Butch Jones' favor too, although Jerry Pruitt kind of stepped in. The strength coaches and medical staff, we know that football coaches are responsible for them, but they're technically not supposed to be, so that's why they always say they're employed by the university. And I think one of the things that needs to be fixed is immediately, overnight, all college athletics needs to have a set rule on who hires and the strength coach and staff and who's responsible, so we don't have a situation like this again.
I think that would be a great thing to do, certainly. What is Miles Brand's job other than to look the other way, it seems? I mean, I cannot figure out what... The man seems to be the most ineffectual person that I could recall running the NCAA. I mean, if you had a commissioner, the way that, say, baseball does. I mean, I can see, say, a Bowie Kuhn, let alone a Judge Landis or something, stepping in and saying, wait a minute, in my authority here, no, we're not going to have coaches that kill their players be on the sidelines at the University of Maryland. I mean, a very strong president, I think, could send that message out there. Is Miles Brand so afraid of the Big Five conferences pulling away from the NCAA that he is absolutely ineffectual and just will let everything go?
That's what I've been wondering. And I mean, it didn't start with Miles Brand either, but the NCAA's job. I've always tried to wonder too. And funny enough, before he really blew up, Clay Travis had a great article about 5 years ago where he wrote, the NCAA seems like its only job is to keep a market for existing in a country founded on a capitalist free market. And
yeah.
That really is what it seems like they're doing now. And I mean, they're dealing right now with the fallout from the lawsuit for college basketball that just happened, federal case that just was settled. And you have 3 guys going to jail, and I'm thinking, I think regular people like myself are just like, look, I got a lot of reasons I think people should be in jail. Giving players extra cash on the side is not one of them, or getting paid to help players is not one of them. I'm sorry, it's just not what I really care about.
Yeah.
I do care about if the NCAA institute a policy that keeps the kid from dying when he's working out. And I mean, one of the parts of this Maryland story that nobody talks about was that there was last year disagreement among the administration over a way to change how they deal with the medical staff. Which again, this is where this all gets murky. Is who maybe Durkin hired the strength coach, he hired Rick Court, but who hired the medical staff? Who's responsible for that? And there's not one set policy. And I'm like, should the NCAA do this? Should the federal government institute medical staff for everybody? Should the schools themselves do it? Should the states do it? There needs to be a set policy for a medical staff and a strength coach for every single team that is involved with the NCAA. going to have situations like this all over again because you're not going to have a clear-cut case over who's responsible. And we know this. I mean, Maryland's incompetence, I can tell you right now, goes long before what is true and what is fair to Durkin and Damon Evans, the athletic director. The incompetence at the school way precedes those two guys. I mean, Kevin Anderson may be the worst athletic director in the history of the world next to Mike Hamilton.
No, the worst athletic director in the history of the world, trust me on this, was David Mullins at ETSU, who was the tennis coach appointed and then dropped football and would just, after that, I had several run-ins with him, but if he basically caused ETSU to stop getting covered in the local media, if you can imagine that. Johnson City Press would, I mean, you'll get that, but I mean, beat writers fell off. He would ban them if you wouldn't say nice things about the ETSU Buccaneers. He was a piece of work, and now his own replacement on the tennis team actually went to, he's got the tennis program at ETSU on probation now because he used to steal from the coffers at ETSU. That was, I would say that David Mullins at ETSU was the worst athletic director I have ever seen. But anyway, I just want that on record right there. And when he left, then ETSU football came back, and you can see that ETSU is winning again. Hey, Matt Canada, 5-3 interim coach. What happens to him? Does he become the offensive coordinator again and just act like nothing has happened, or what's his role now?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Matt Canada, I stay on the year as offensive coordinator, and I make some sentimental thing, I made a commitment to these players, and I don't want to abandon these players. It's about them, something like that to help save face for him, because he's in a rock and a hard place. Because you don't just want to up and leave and take a principal, even though it would be the principal thing to do. I think the way he can get around it is say, look, this is about these players that I came to. I left LSU to be with them, and I don't just want to abandon them midway, particularly when they are dealing with the tragic death of Jordan McNair. So, but the problem is, I don't know how Maryland's going to recover. The team is clearly divided. I mean, again, half the players walked out of a team meeting last night with their team.
Yeah, that's something we hadn't got to, but yeah, several players walked out. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it reminds me of, I think, Marky, you probably remember this the most, because I was too young, but one of the biggest reasons for that 3-game losing streak that got Johnny Majors fired in 92, reading it retroactively, is players were divided over who to follow as a coach at that point. And I think that calls those two 1-point losses to the two SEC newcomers that year.
There's possibly, I know that Majors always said that he really felt like, Fulmer was backstabbing him. And yeah, I mean, I know Todd Helton, I once interviewed him about, and he was trying to stay, not give me anything, but the read between the lines statements he had made, I remember, was sort of like, I'm a Majors guy in that sort of battle between the two or so. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, that's what went down. And I wonder if something like that could occur here. I mean, yeah, I did wonder, with Canada doing well in the interim, and you have Durkin, who certainly is no John Majors, let's face that, there couldn't be some sort of internal situation where Canada could be made the full-time head coach or so. Maryland students are going to hold a rally for Jordan McNair tomorrow. The student body president is going to introduce legislation tonight that calls for Wallace Lowe to fire the football coach. Now, those things, I've seen student bodies try to do something like that. It has no effect. On the other hand, the vote by the student government at ETSU is ultimately what brought football back there. I don't know. I mean, do you think the student body president could actually lead the way in getting Durkin fired? Do you think there's anything there?
Possibly, because this is such a layup, like I said earlier, this is such a layup decision for the students. I mean, they get to, I don't want to attack, I don't want to be unfair to them or anything, but it's a lot easier to take this moral stance against the 10 and 15 coach. And so this is just the easiest thing in the world to do, to say, we're students and we care about morals and values more than anything else. I'm like, yeah, what the hell was Art Briles doing when he was was doing at Baylor and this happened? Or what if this was, again, like I said, what if this was Urban Meyer or Joe Paterno or any of these other coaches? And what if beyond even all of that, it was just you could see Maryland was a program on the rise under DJ Durkin, as opposed to one that had gone 6-7 his first year and then 4-8 his second year. So I personally think that they're doing this because it's I'm not saying it's an ulterior motive. I'm saying it's just a heck of a lot easier to take this stance when you don't have a well-recognized coach. I mean, the same way, I'll be honest. I do agree that Schiano would have been an awful hire for Tennessee, but half the reason for that protest last year was because they didn't want him as head coach.
I'd like to stay on with the did he know at Penn State and such. I'd like to say that, Mike Tomlin hired Tom Bradley, who definitely knew, as his secondary coach with the Steelers this year, and it got very little fuss. So, you can debate that one way or the other. Are Tennessee fans, are college football fans more apt to be sensitive to such a thing than pro football fans? Who knows? Are Steelers fans all Penn State apologists? I mean, who knows? You can look at that a lot of different ways. I didn't want Bradley to be with the Steelers, and I didn't want Bradley to be at UCLA, and I didn't want, Schiano to be at Tennessee, to be honest with you, if you want to go the whole 9 yards on that. So, but yeah, I think 68 and 67 at Rutgers had a lot to do with that as well as just, the SEC's bias against the Big Ten. We don't want the Ohio State defensive coordinator. We want the Alabama defensive coordinator. I think a lot of that had to do with
the Ohio State defensive coordinator gave up 55 points to Iowa, a team that literally does everything it can to keep the game low scoring.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yes, if Schiano was 70-30 or something at Rutgers before he went to Tampa Bay and wasn't so successful there, maybe, I could see a different story, but he wasn't, and this is what happened, and this is what was said. So I'd like to think, at least, that Tennessee fans were more outraged of, I think he knew, than 68 and 67. I'd at least like to think that. That might be kid gloves there, but there we are. Anyway, hey, allfortennessee.com. We're talking to Caleb Calhoun. He also writes for USA Today, and he knows Maryland just as well as he knows Tennessee. Now, I just did a commentary, and I was like, I think the smart money is that, Tennessee doesn't go bowling. But you've got a story here. Yes, the Vols could win out to finish 7-5. Oh, I think that Charlotte's a victory, no question there. I just wonder about Kentucky's defense and also a couple of pretty good quarterbacks in Locke and Shermer after Tennessee has had the difficulties with, say, Fromm, Bentley, and Felipe Franks. None of them have thrown as many yards a game as Shermer or Locke. 7-5 with Tennessee. Here. Tell us how it's going to be done.
Well, again, this is I'm reserving my full projections for next week. I was saying it is possible, though, and what I said could happen is Tennessee's obviously going to beat Charlotte on Saturday. Assuming they were to get 7-5, Charlotte would be a given win.
Assuming the 49ers aren't don't have the benefit of the Vols getting locked in the locker room. Yes, okay, yeah.
Yes. So that's going to happen, and then you have. And then the final three games, I still label them all toss-ups. I don't even label them likely wins for the other two teams. Now, the final one at Vanderbilt is definitely a toss-up, but I mean, call it a toss-up, and Vanderbilt's won the last two, but I mean, is anybody are we going to lambast anybody that picks the Vols to beat Vanderbilt in Nashville? So you have that. So then you get these final two games with Kentucky and Missouri. I pointed out that right now, even after they just lost to Kentucky, Missouri is rated higher in the ESPN FDI to beat the Vols than Kentucky is. There's not a lot of faith in Kentucky, even still, after their 7-1 record. I think there is some legitimacy to that. I mean, we got to remember that Kentucky it did take a horrible pass interference call for them to win over the weekend, and Tennessee was very close to beating a South Carolina team. So it's not crazy to think the Vols couldn't beat Kentucky in Neyland Stadium. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth to say it's not crazy to think the Vols could beat Kentucky.
I think it's going to be real tough. I mean, I like the Kentucky defense a lot. And, 9th ranked in the playoff rankings. I don't know. I forget what you officially call them and all that. But no, that's, we shall see. We shall see. Tennessee traditionally scheduled, Kentucky and Vanderbilt for whatever reason at the end of the schedule, and they had a wonderful November record back then. That was back then. No, that's the thing. We'll see. 6-6, not out of the realm of possibility. Last time both ETSU and Tennessee made the postseason, 1996. Could happen again. Just that, you got to figure out that Kentucky defense, and for that matter, Locke and Shermer, who I think both of them probably will be in the NFL at some point and all this. Hey, read about how Daniel Batuli is going to be one of the players to watch, certainly against Charlotte and going forth for the Tennessee Volunteers. It's on allfortennessee.com. This is Caleb Calhoun, and like I said, if you thought he knew Maryland, he knows the Volunteers just as well, and I think he's one of the true journalists covering the Tennessee Volunteers for allfortennessee.com. We'll see what happens with Durkin. I shocked that he is coming back. Really shocked. I got to tell you that. Anyway, thanks for joining us here. I'm up against it. Tri-City Sports Now will be coming back after this. Okay. Thank you much. And I'll see you. We'll do this. You want to do this again next week, I suppose. I guess we could try to do Monday.